Hello, everybody. So, Raquel was asking about some of the traumatic healing responses that we've had on the program in the chat. And I said time travel. I was kind of just joking, but to an extent, it is true. I didn't actually um, have a vision or move through time, but I kind of did in a way because throughout the program, I would say a good handful of times, um, emotionally, I've left where I'm at, or feelings wise, or mentally wise, I've left where I was at, and I've traveled back to my childhood, and I felt a certain feeling that I felt in my childhood, and I can pinpoint the time frame of when that time was. So, it's happened a couple times, me being at work. I remember one time I was in my work truck. We were in a truck, and I just got this feeling, and it was a feeling that I remember having as a child. I'm talking like back in the 90s, maybe when I was, you know, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, somewhere around that age. I just got this feeling, and it was a pleasant feeling. Um, but I had an understanding of the way that I thought back then and the feelings and the frequency that I was on back then. I had a feeling that resonated with that. And it felt like I was there. And it wasn't like a scenery thing. I didn't have an open vision to where I'm like back in my living room at 10 years old and walking around or playing or whatever. But it was just a feeling. The feelings and the emotions and the frequency that I was resonating on at that time, I felt it 100%. I just felt it. And that's happened a few times, and I've traveled back to different points. Like I've traveled back to my late teenage years, and I've understood, during my late teenage years, I was very confused. Late teens, early 20s, I was very confused. And I felt that confusion and that feeling of just being lost in the sauce. I felt that feeling. It was as if I had time traveled. All right, but I didn't see anything. I didn't have a vision, but I just felt it. And I can pinpoint that exact time period of how I was feeling. And that's happened to me multiple times. I've traveled back to my early days as a child, to my teenage years, and into my 20s and stuff like that. And I don't know why that happened, but I believe that it was just some retracing and some healing, and it wasn't just because of, doing the supplements and the diet and stuff like that. It was also because of different healing modalities and practices that I've done and that people have helped me to do. Because I've dealt with a lot of people who had spiritual healing powers, and I've done a lot of soul searching myself and a lot of prayer and things like that. So all that stuff put together, and the fact that the earth is resonating on a higher level, a higher frequency. There's different dimensions that you can live on within our own realm here on earth at this point in time. You could be living in one dimension, and the person next door to you could be living in a different dimension, but you can go outside and y'all can still see each other and wave to each other. You see, and that's the confusion that a lot of people have. They feel like, oh, we're gonna transfer into this higher dimension. One day, it's all gonna at the at the snap of some fingers. Then everything is gonna transform at one time. But no, it's more of a gradual transformation. And I think yes, at one point in time, there will be just a huge shift, and that may be where it talks about in the Bible, the rapture, or people having their bodies become changed into their light bodies and stuff like that. I think that's going to happen at a time like that. But I think there's going to be a build up to that. There's got to be a build up to it, and the frequency that you live on and resonate on can be 100% different than what everybody else is resonating on. I noticed certain things, that I've got off of the politics tip, and I've got off of social media. Besides going on YouTube, and I do watch way too many YouTube channels, man. You kind of waste your time a little bit on YouTube and stuff like that. But hopefully I'll be getting you know, that's why it's always great to have family, and I'm really looking forward to having a wife, one day, and having my family, my children with me, and being able to see them every day, and because that's that's what we need to be focused on more so than all of the distractions and the media stuff that we have. And media is really just, I believe, is a substitute for family, because people can't really get their families together. They don't know how to get along with their wives and husbands and children and stuff like that. So everybody turned into like some type of hermit, introverted hermits and stuff like that, but where they substitute Netflix and video games and YouTube videos for, being a good husband and father, and being a good mother and wife and all that type of stuff. So hopefully, in the months or years to come, I'll be, in a good relationship or getting married or something like that. But I went off on a tangent. I digressed. But coming back to what I was saying, as I've got off of those social media, worrying about politics and stuff like that, it's begun to look so silly to me, just so silly to me. Let me give you an example. The practice of filibustering, when a person that's in the government and the Congress, they get up and because they don't want another person to speak, they'll just sit up there and talk aimlessly. They'll read, what was it, one senator or something like that? He was reading out of a Dr. Seuss book. And these are grown men and women in their 40s and 50s and 60s. And the fact that they're allowed to do that, the laws allow them to just get up and prevent other people from talking by reading Dr. Seuss books and calling it filibustering, that literally shows me that I'm in a different dimension than what they're on. They are in the third dimension, or maybe they're in a second dimension. Okay, because some people say that the second dimension is all about people, place, and possessions. People, places, and things, when that's all you're worried about. And third dimension is when you're worried about, when you're more concerned on becoming an individual, becoming free as an individual. And the fourth dimension is when you even move higher past that and you become more involved in the collective, and you have a higher mental and spiritual or soulful frequency. Okay, but whatever dimension they're on, I'm on a higher dimension, because I see that as baby talk. I see that as childishness. My children do that to each other, at 8 and 7 years old, and I make them stop doing that. When one person's trying to sit there and talk to me, another, my daughter's trying to talk to me on the phone, and my son will try to jump in, and vice versa. That's what children do, and they only do that up to a certain age. So when I see 50-year-olds doing that and arguing and stuff like that on national television, it's just so childish. It lets me know that I've moved past that dimension. So there's no point in me even giving it any attention, because I don't want to be pulled back into that silly dimension. It's a dimension of silliness. Okay, it's a vibration of silliness. All right. And also the whole social media thing. Going back and forth and arguing with people, and trying to impress people and all that type of stuff. That stuff is silly. And you can use social media for good. You can use it for business as well. Something that I'm gonna be getting back into. Once I tie up some loose ends with business that I'm trying to do at this point in time with nutritional balancing and stuff. I'll be back on social media, on Facebook and everything like that. But it'll be a business page. It won't be just a personal page and stuff like that. But because I'm just moving up dimensions. I'm moving up, becoming more mature. And once you start doing that, you can go back in time and you can see and you can feel what frequency that you were on and what your mentality was, and what spirit you were of at that point in time. And you're given that, I think, to heal it, okay? Because time is fluid. It's not what we think it really is. People say, well, we go into the past and something happened 2,000 years ago. Or people say, well, Christ, he lived 2,000 years ago, and he died on the cross and for our sins 2,000 years ago. But really, when you think about it, every point in time is eternal. It's just the reason why everything that happens reverberates throughout time. So in one sense, yes, he was here 2,000 years ago, but in another sense, it's happening right now still. It just depends on how you look at it and what frequency you can tune into. So when I say I can go back and I can heal my childhood trauma by time travel, it doesn't necessarily mean that I got into a machine and the particles of my body were broken down and then transferred into another period of time. It just means that point in time when I was a child, that I felt that and I needed to be healed of that, it still reverberates and exists right now. You see, the same couch that I'm on right now, maybe I was on the same couch when I was 10 years old. And maybe right now I am 10 years old on the same couch. Okay, it's just in another time period, but that time period is not necessarily in the past. You see, we look at time as past, present, and future, but I think in the future, or as we level up in dimensions and consciousness, even the scriptures, the Bible talk about where there will be no more time. So everything is present. All right. So even something that you did 10 years ago is still present. All right. So that means you can actively go back and you can change it. Not even necessarily just heal from that trauma, but you can actually change the past. And this is what we see with the Mandela effect, and nobody really understands fully of how it works, and I don't understand fully how it works and why it's happening or how it's happening. But we see that things can be changed. People can time travel and change things. Okay? We can remember certain things for sure, and we know certain things were this way or that way, and then they got changed. We know that. You know what I mean? Especially those of us like me. I've seen the Bible changes in the King James Bible that have changed. And there's a lot of people who remember it the exact same way that I do. And then, the people who are, more stuck on a lower frequency in a second and third dimension, they just get updated with the matrix codes, and the matrix codes tell them that, no, it's always been this way. When we know it's not always been that way, we know it's different. We know that things have changed. All right. So anyway, those childhood traumas have been healed. You can go back and you can heal your ancestors. You see what I'm saying? You can go back and, your mother, your father, your grandparents, you can heal their traumas and their sins and all the things that they've done negative or that they've imposed upon themselves or others. Those things can be healed if you develop enough strength of your own soul, you see. And this is what I think the key to Christ, what it was, he reached that level, you see. And he did it differently than what is taught from most people. He did it through service and sacrifice and righteousness. Okay, because if you can overcome your flesh, there's something within us all that wants to do things that are just that we know are not right. Right? How did that get inside of us? Who knows? It took, I don't know. You know, the Adam and Eve story is I think, a microcosm of something that happened on a macro level to all of humanity at some point in time. Okay, so to where we began to, everybody is infused with a yearning to do that which we know is not healthy for us, and we can hide it because it's easy to hide jealousy and hatred and envy and all those types of things because it's inside of the heart. We can hide that up until a certain point because everything always comes out, right? Everything is always revealed. But it's in us, and we have to overcome it. And that, to me, is the way that we reach enlightenment of the soul, you see. So many people teach the Kundalini and all that type of stuff, and it's fine doing all that. I mean, I do the numerology and the astrology, and I do all that stuff, you know. I've I've had friends that were shamans and things of that nature who can do all types of great things, you know, on a spiritual level if they're using it for good, you know. That's cool. But the main idea is you've got to overcome that evil within you. You've got to overcome that evil within. Because we've all got it. You know? Everybody. You see what I'm saying? But just because it's in you and you know it's there doesn't mean that you have to act on it. It doesn't mean that you have to act on it just because it crosses your mind, it crosses your heart. It does not mean that you have to act on it. And that is what Christ did. He was able to overcome, which made him the perfect one. And started a new path for us all, right? And if time doesn't truly exist in the way that we think it exists, then his sacrifice not only covers the people that were there during his time, but it covers the past, the present, and the future. That's why it's so important. That's why it was so important that somebody would come through this earth realm and live completely above his flesh and completely above the lower negative energy, chakra energy. Even our upper chakras, our crown chakras and third eyes, there's a negative side of every chakra. It's not just your lower chakras that have the negative points to it. All of your chakra system has positive and negative, just like every number in your numerological chart has positive and negative side. It's your choice whether you're going to choose to walk in the positive or the negative side of your numerology chart, of your astrological chart. Okay, you may have an astrological chart that says, you know, basically you're more than likely you're going to have some type of sexual abuse as a child. You're going to be abused. All right, and that's on your chart. That's what you came in this world, and that's what you've been given. Okay, for whatever reason, we can't really speculate. You can speculate and say, well, it's because you did something wrong in your previous life or whatever. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. It may just be something that you've been given so that you can overcome it and so that you can understand it in your heart and your mind. You can understand it. That way you can feel other people's pain. That way you can heal other people and you can enrich your life, and that will make you a more complete person, and your next life you'll be an angel or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So you can have that in your chart, and you can use that as an excuse to become an abuser when you grow up, or you can overcome that all right, and use it to heal. And we all have the choice to do that. We all have the choice, okay? So, I'm really big on self-reflection and prayer and things like that. Even this video for me is self-reflection. It's me getting my words out into the atmosphere so I can hear them, and they're not just floating around in my mind. And it's also helping other people. So, these are the things that are important, I believe, for us to think about, okay? And the dimension that we're on and the time that we're in right now, I believe that it's very, very transitional, okay? You can stay in the matrix and, worry about the politics and things like that and what's going on, wars and rumors of wars and all these different things, or you can work on perfecting yourself, overcoming your weaknesses and your faults, not covering them up with yoga, different yoga practices, and I'm doing different kundalini breathing exercises, and I'm on the nutritional balancing program, and I'm doing this and that. All that's great. All that is great. But don't neglect the heart. Don't neglect the condition of the cleanliness of your mind, the cleanliness and the purification of your heart. Because the pure in heart, only the pure in heart will see God. Right? Only the pure in heart will see God. What does that mean? You tell me. But I want to see God, so you have to be pure in heart. And you can be the most healthiest. You can be 200, 300, 400 years old. You know what I mean? You can be a vampire or something like that. Because there's people that walk around, every now and then you may see them and they're really like 250, 300 years old. And they look like they're 35. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that they're a good person. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that they are moral and righteous and that they're connected to God. All right? And eventually they're going to deteriorate if they're not. That's the natural progression. The further from God you get, the more that you deteriorate. All right? And the closer to God that you get, you may go through a time where you're not very strong physically, but eventually you're going to raise back up and you're going to be, get to the point where maybe you could become a creator angel, creator God, or whatever you want to call them. Those that are, right next to the Father in heaven and the Mother of the Holy Spirit. Right? And at that point, those are the type of entities that are helping to create new universes and new dimensions, and because the universes they're endless. The mansions that Christ said that he was preparing are different dimensions, or different realms, they're different universes, okay, to where that you can ascend and you can descend depending on your choices. Okay, so we've got a long way to go to being on that level. We may not be on that level for another million years. Who knows? Who knows? But you want to, if it's given to you in your heart to be close to God and to love your neighbor as yourself and all that type of stuff, then you're on the right track. If it's not, then maybe you should rethink some things. And some people, maybe are headed for destruction. Some people are headed for rulership, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe everybody will eventually get back to the Father, get back to God, in one way or another. Who knows? Okay, but the most important thing is the life that you're living right now. That you do what you know is right. You live the way that you know is right. You don't steal from people. You don't talk trash about people. If you're married, you're faithful to that person, no matter what. If you have children, you raise them to the best of your ability. You work hard and all these things that we know we're supposed to do. That's what you do. And if there's things that you want to change in your life, you have to pray. You know, I'm sure you know you think positive and all that type of stuff, which is what you're supposed to do. But um, there's a missing factor that most of the positive thinking people don't incorporate, which is prayer. You know, and I'm here to tell you it's very powerful. You know, so was extremely long video. I planned it on it being about 5 minutes. Ended up being right now at 25 minutes, almost 26 minutes. So I can ramble and rave, and it's pretty interesting. That's another thing about time travel or time itself. I feel like I haven't even gotten started talking, and I'm looking up, and it's almost 26 minutes of this video. I feel like I've only been talking for about 4 or 5 minutes. So that means I'm in my element. That means I'm in my element. But it also means that time is not necessarily what we think it is. So anyway, you guys have an excellent day or night, or afternoon. Eat your vegetables. I'm getting ready to eat me a steak and vegetables. I'm a red meat eater, you know. I probably eat too much red meat, but I have to slow down a little bit, but it keeps me strong. Look at that. And my daughter, she's always like, Daddy, you strong. Daddy got big muscles. Daddy got big muscles. That's cool. I like that. But anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.